Kenya's annual potato production stands at between 1.5 to 2.5 million tons annually. And the government is working with other stakeholders in the industry to try and increase potato production in the country, bearing in mind that potato is the second most important food in this country. What is the way forward? Joining us on this week, we're talking to the Potato Council of Kenya CEO, Wachira Kaguango. Our conversation will be around how to increase productivity of potatoes in this country. Thank you very much indeed for finding time to be with us here.
Thank you. We appreciate. Asante sana.
How would you describe the state of potato industry in Kenya?
I would say potato industry is still an infant in the sense that we still have a lot to cover in the sense of exploiting its potential. For the last 10 years or so, since National Potato Council was created, we have tried to work with stakeholders to transform the industry in the sense of addressing the challenges that have been preventing it from achieving the highest potential compared to other countries. Right now, the production is quite low, as you're saying. In terms of productivity, you find that the yield is less than 10 tons per hectare compared to countries like South Africa, Egypt, and even Europe, where we get more than 35 tons per hectare. This is mainly caused by the poor way of farming, in the sense that we don't use the correct inputs in the correct amount, and also the practices that our farmers use are not very good for the production, to maximize production. So, but I would say that we have really improved in the sense that we've been having a lot of shortage in terms of seed production and use. Having less than 5 tons, less than 5% of farmers using certified seed and high quality seed. But of late we've had quite a number of seed producers. We used to have like 3 main seed producers. Now we have over 28 registered seed merchants in potato industry. So we are moving. We are not completely at the level we used to be, because when you are starting the Potato Council, we used to find it or to look at it as a subsistence kind of farming. But now it's more commercialized. We have more investors entering into the space of potato, and we have more technologies coming on board.
How comes, despite more than 70 years of potato farming in this country, we are yet to commercialize, the business of potato farming?
I wouldn't say we are yet. I would say now we are en route to commercialization.
But we are not yet fully there. You wouldn't say, for example, when you look at the wheat industry, it's highly commercialized. You can't say the same for potatoes.
We need to have quite a number of things put in place, and that's why we are developing a national potato strategy. And that's why you find that potato has been included in the Big Four agenda. It has also been included in what we are calling agricultural sector transformation and growth strategy. And all this is to make sure that the farming in potato is improved, because the government and stakeholders realize the potential. When you look at worldwide, potato has a lot of potential in terms of contributing to GDP and wealth of the population, in terms of income and also nutrition. And that's why you can see there's a lot of programs, including now what has been launched the other day by the Minister Peter Munya, where they are trying to support potato production through input subsidy. This is fertilizer, agrochemicals, and all this. So the government, stakeholders realize there is a lot of potential, and it is true there is, because we have seen it. We have seen a lot of incomes and business opportunities at different levels, including the youth. We even have a workshop next week targeting the youth, because we realize there is a lot of opportunities where the youth can fit. So yes, I agree with you. We are not there in terms of commercialization, in terms of exploiting potential, but we are working, we are taking the steps towards that.
When you look at Kenya, you have about 160,000 hectares of land, that is under potato cultivation. Do we really need more, or this is enough, to boost our production, or maybe double or triple our potato production?
Well, we don't need much land to triple. In fact, the first step would be increasing productivity, because as I said earlier, yields per hectare currently is less than 10 tons per hectare. We can do 3 times if we use the correct inputs and good agricultural practices. And again, we have new technologies that are using apical cuttings, which you produce within a greenhouse. And within a very short time, you have the critical mass required to start selling to other farmers. We even have the other one called aeroponics, again, which produces mini tubers. And also that one is a rapid multiplication method. So we don't need a lot of land. But as the industry grows, we are likely to expand, because you find that most of those 160,000 hectares are mainly in highlands. And this is because most of the varieties that were introduced initially could only do well in highlands. But now, these days, we have varieties that can grow in lowlands as long as there is enough water. So expansion may occur, but it's not necessary at the moment, before we maximize or we reach the optimal yields in terms of productivity.
And you are talking about the right input. And the fact of the matter is that, the Kenyan seed industry has been infiltrated by, high number of fake seeds and fake inputs. To what extent has this impacted negatively the production of potatoes?
That is true, and that problem of fake seed and substandard inputs has been there for long, not only in potatoes but in all agricultural areas. And potato, we have taken quite a number of steps. We work closely with KBC to make sure that certified seed is guarded, avoid adulteration, and making sure we are working with the seed merchants. One thing we are doing is we work with farmers very closely. We have what we call via the so-called digital platform, which we are trying to work with to reach farmers and explain to them or give them information in terms of who has good seed, who has certified seed. And then we tell them, when you are buying seed, you have to check for KBC label, you have to make sure it is sprouted, you have to make sure that it is of uniform variety and quality. And more importantly, if you find something that is not good within the bag, please complain to us. We'll be able to follow it up.
When you look at the National Potato Strategy, that was launched in December last year, it talks about increasing potato production in Kenya from about 2 million to 10 million tons. And when you look at the efforts that the government is doing or is putting in potato production, are you convinced that the government is putting its money where its mouth is?
I would say to a large extent, yes. And actually, I would want to remind you that when the National Potato Council was created, it was created to solve some of the issues. And these issues, key issues, were lack of policy, lack of budgetary support, and the lack of institutional support. And since that time, we've been lobbying, working with the key stakeholders and government agencies closely. And we have seen quite a lot of changes. One, we never used to have regulations. Now we have potato regulations, which was launched in 2019. And last year, the current minister, Peter Munya, relaunched the enforcement of the regulation. We have seen government put more money in potato increasingly, including now the projects I've just mentioned about the IFAD AFA project, which is supporting inputs in potato industry and fertilizer and other, agrochemicals, fertilizer and seeds. So this is additional funding that government is doing. So it is true that government has been increasing. If you compare with what is happening in other areas, I would say the government is paying more attention to potato, including the way it was able to include it in the Big Four agenda. When the crop was included, or the potato was included in the Big Four agenda, it means the government is focusing on it much more than it used to be, which means more support. So I would say yes, we are having more support towards the industry, and now increasingly we will see the output increase.
When you also look at our productivity rate, and you are talking about 10 tons per acreage, South Africa has a higher productivity rate, at almost 35,000 tons. How do we increase this productivity without increasing the cost of production for farmers?
One thing that has happened, and I mentioned earlier, is to have potato be included in government subsidy. And of course, the inputs have really increased. The prices have increased for inputs, which is a global problem, not necessarily a local problem. But we also need to look at the taxation regime of inputs, because that's another important critical area that we are trying to lobby and have engagement and conversation with the government and relevant institutions. So subsidy having been introduced in potato, we are sure that will help farmers a lot. The other thing is we are trying to work with financial institutions so that they can lend to our farmers. And also we are trying to help farmers to support them to come up with their own cooperative and society. We are in touch with the cooperative bank, and we are coming up with the programs in terms of how to support them. We want potato farmers to learn their run their businesses, just like we find in coffee, in tea, and even dairy, where we have cooperatives that are very strong, supporting their members with loans and credits, and also purchasing inputs in large quantities, which reduces the transaction cost and enables farmers to afford.
The other thing that farmers have always decried was the low returns from potato farming, whereby you have a 50 kg sack of potatoes, sometimes going for as low as 500 shillings. I know the government is working to try and deal with the middlemen in the process. Do we have an idea how much progress we have made on this?
We are progressing, and currently government is supporting farmers to have cold stores. We have one in Meru, which is in progress, another one in Nyandarua. And so the government is trying to support farmers to be able to sell or store before they sell. And what is important here is that to make sure that farmers are able to get something once they deposit, and that's where the warehouse receipting system comes in. When they deposit their potatoes, they can get a certificate which they can use to go and get funds, because the main reason why farmers sell at low prices is because they all harvest at the same time. They need money, and unfortunately most of them use rain-fed production, which means they depend on rain. So some of the things we are also trying to do is to encourage them to use irrigation and also storage at farm level. Even before you take to warehouses, you can store at farm level. And this can only be made possible by adapting other varieties that are storable. For example, currently, most of the farmers, over 70% of farmers are growing shangi. Shangi, you don't store it for long. Before you know, it has already started sprouting. So we are encouraging them to adapt other varieties that can be stored, and also encouraging them to have contracts. We are connecting them to from farm to market outlets, so that by the time they are planting, they already know who they are going to sell to.
The potato regulations, that came into force in 2019, they banned, the sale of potatoes in bags that are more than 50 kilos. However, you still have farmers today, complaining about exploitation by middlemen. How do we ensure that these regulations are adhered to?
The regulations that were launched have contain more than the pricing and packaging. They have element of organized farmers, cooperatives, farmer groups, and all these, who are supposed to be supported in marketing. And that is what we want to use to make sure that we link them directly to the market outlets. For example, we are having conversation with some of the processors, and therefore they have started buying directly from farmers. There we don't have middlemen at all. It is from farm kilos to the processor. And if you're able to do that, then we'll have solved a lot of challenges. And more importantly, the national government, through AFA, they supported the industry by producing the regulations, and they tried to enforce it. But again, also counties, we need to all work together, because if one county enforces it and others don't, then it is difficult to work. So we need that coordinated working together. And I'm also, I don't know whether you are aware, also the minister is appointing a task force. And that task force is supposed to address all these challenges, look at all the challenges, and come up with the way forward.
Mm-hmm. How many cold storage facilities do you think we need in this country, to service the more than 800,000 potato farmers, smallholder potato farmers in Kenya?
I wouldn't come with the exact figure, but first, we don't have to store all the potato that are produced. And one thing that we should be aware of is that a lot of potatoes that we produce are eaten within the county, within the farms and all this. And that's why for a long time, the importance of potato had not been realized, because a lot of it is eaten within the farms and within the counties. And then we are encouraging production throughout. So storage may not be for all the potato produced. But as we move on, and remember also, Kenyans like fresh produce. They don't like a lot of storing. The storage is just coming in to fill the gap, to support the gap. So we need to do some calculations in terms of that. I can't tell exactly how many, but definitely we can't have many, and especially at the beginning, because of course, not many people like stalled potato. And we, unlike in Europe and Western world, we produce potatoes here twice.
Very well. Last year, we saw the National Treasury move into and impose a 30% duty on imported potatoes into the country. Do you think this move was strong enough to deter the importation of potatoes in Kenya?
Actually, the main reason is not completely deter, but to balance, to have a balance. Because what you're supposed to do is come up with systems that are supposed to produce, or infrastructure that will be able to substitute the imported frozen chips and even other products. So it's a positive move, I would say. But again, on the other side, as a country, we need to build the infrastructure and other mechanism to make sure that there is investment in that area of producing frozen chips. So, and other products, because it's not only frozen chips that are imported. So we need to work fast also, so that at the end of the day, because that policy or that move was not supposed to stop business. It's supposed to bring business back home and benefit our farmers and our citizens.
Do you believe that Kenya can do without the importation of potatoes?
It's possible,
So
but
but
it's just having the infrastructure correct, because anybody who can do his mathematics and economics will see importation is very expensive, and relying on imported products is very risky, and that's why you had some uproar last month because of lack of frozen chips in the globally. So if we are able to build that infrastructure, and we are working on it, and I know we'll be able to do that, that is better for everybody, because it is cheaper, it saves on foreign currency, and it benefits our farmers.
You know, the uproar that you're talking about emerged, especially in the social media. There was a lot of angst, especially in the public domain. And the questions that are being asked was, how comes we do not have the required standards to supply to multinational franchise?
I wouldn't say we don't have standards, because standards are built. You make standards, you develop standards, you create systems, you create quality management systems. But there must be a need, because it's normally demand driven. There must be need for that. And for a long time, we didn't have demand for frozen chips. It's only that the likes of KFC has created that niche where the Kenyans are now going to that. And I'm sure it will go expanding, and we are now preparing for more, not only the likes of KFC, even others will come. So because there is that need, I'm sure it will develop, and we are talking to the development partners and other partners, and even the government. AFA is working on that, and therefore soon it will be a space well taken. But again, we should be cautious, because it is not that much potato going through that cold chain. So we don't expect that it will be benefiting every potato farmers in the country. No.
When that public uproar was going on, I mean, the Potato Council issued a statement saying that they were going to work with Kentucky Fried Chicken to see how they can improve and come up with the standards that KFC was talking about. Have you made any inroads on this yet?
We have, and actually when we discussed with them, they already had started making moves on that. So we just enhanced that, whatever they were moves they had done. So we have quite a number of processing companies that are ready to work with them. They just need to present what they have. because one thing I like reminding my fellow Kenyans is that, and our farmers, is that it is not, farmers do not sell directly to KFC. No. There is somebody they have to deal with first. And this person is a processor. The processor is the one who will come up with the right quality that will be supplied to the Kentucky KFC. So we have to work with this company that is in between them and the farmers, and then we build the system. Yeah, so most of the noise directed to KFC was misplaced.
Because KFC does not buy directly from farmers.
It will not buy directly from farmers. It will buy processed frozen chips from an investor.
And how comes, Kenya, despite many years of research in potatoes, we are yet to develop our own standards? We still use the American potato standards. Let's
agree that even here in Kenya, Kenya is known to produce very good policies, very good strategies. Then they are taken by our neighbors. Simply because you don't need to reinvent some of these things. If there's something that is existing, you just pick it, customize it, and use it. And that's exactly what you're going to do. Unless there is something that does not fit our situation. That's where we need to customize it. It is not copy and paste, no. We need to customize it. So it is just, I would expect that we are supposed to pick what there is, look at it, remove what does not fit us, put what fits us, and then adjust what is not going per our situation, and that saves time, saves the resources, and we are ready to go.
As we bring to a close this interview, where do you see the future of potato farming in Kenya?
Potato farming is going far. The industry is going far. We have seen so many products from potato, and contribution of the crop to GDP is very high, and many farmers are relying on potato. So I'm seeing potato industry being far much organized. We have already so many investors entering or trying to enter into the space of potato production and processing. So I am always getting questions and requests for support in connecting different investors with the different partners for them to be able to do one or two things in the value chain. So it is going to high level.
Wachira Kaguango, thank you very much indeed for joining us on Inside Government, and of course helping us understand where potato farming is going in Kenya.
Thank you. Appreciate. Asante sana.
My name is O'Brien Kimani. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.